And there was no question for me that I really wanted to do one of these dragons.
Hello and welcome. My name is Mark-Pierre Sondergaard. I'm a texture artist in visual effects. Welcome to my podcast. Let's be honest, a life and a career as a working artist can be very fulfilling, but it's not for the faint of heart. It's filled with challenges and obstacles, and the path forward is not always clear or simple. On this podcast, we discuss all of this openly and honestly with experienced artists who have already walked that road. That's why I call it the naked texture artist. There are many podcasts that focus on and celebrate all the big achievements in visual effects and animation. But my career as a texture artist has not been one unending victory lap. So personally, I'm more interested in learning how my fellow artists handle the hard things, when things don't work, when things break, or when we're expected to produce the impossible. All of that stuff that takes place behind the curtain. So I invite you to join me on this journey. Hopefully together we can learn from the artists who went before us, save ourselves some scars and some tears, and increase our joy as working artists. Welcome to the Naked Texture Artist. In a previous life, I used to live in Italy. It was short-lived. Finding work and establishing a life in Italy was not possible for me. And so today, I don't live in Rome anymore, but in Montreal. That's how life goes. But because of this time, I also got to develop a deep love for many aspects of the Italian nation, specifically Italian women. Behind the smile and the friendly demeanor often sits a determination made of steel and a deeply protective instinct. Hey, pick a fight with them at your peril. It will not go well for you. Where is all this going? I'm excited to introduce this episode to you. I had the privilege to sit down with Claudia Marvisi, texture supervisor at Pixomondo. Claudia is all of that. She is clearly a force of nature. Notice how she really had to take the long way around to get started with a career in visual effects. But that she did find a way is hardly surprising. I also love to hear her talk about her team and how seriously she takes their well-being as a supervisor. This is clearly not just something she does for the fancy title. And of course, her passion for the art and craft of texture work shines through. Yeah, Claudia is one to follow for the future, and I'm looking forward to sharing all of our conversation with you over the course of these next several episodes. A small note as we start. As Claudia and me were sort of settling into the interview, she mentioned something interesting. And sometimes you get those moments where you wish you had hit record already. She was talking about the problems you can have with senior artists. I found that a very intriguing notion, because in my book, the senior artist should do the very opposite of that. You should automatically be able to rely on them to set the example in good working practices and to do the heavy lifting on a show with minimal supervision. So as I realized that this interesting topic was unfolding, I quickly hit record and then hit Claudia with a provocative question to stir the pot. Not fair to her, I suppose, but I wanted her to explain her thinking if I pushed back a bit on her statement. Of course, with the intention that we all can benefit from her experience. Hopefully that explains the abrupt start. Let's jump into it. Sorry, Claudia, what is it you have against seniors?
No, I've...
You say juniors don't give you problems, seniors do.
Well,
I think that's very interesting.
It's a very broad concept, and junior can also give problems. It's just in a way that sometimes with senior, especially if you're leading a department, it can be a bit tough because they come with their own way of doing things. They come with their own maybe they worked in the industry for many, many years, and they might not all of them up to date with the latest workflows because they always use the same workflows.
Okay.
They might be used to do many gigs, so that means that they never get into, they keep doing their stuff on their own, like working as lone wolf. So a senior is less flexible. Again, that's not for all the seniors. It's like there are great seniors, but for some of these, for my experience, a senior might be less flexible to adapt and work in the team that has its own kind of patterns and workflows that needs to be used for the well-being of the team. So while a junior is a person that it's more like a sponge. It's like they come with that set level of skills and you cannot be fooled. That's what they maybe learned from school or in their years of experience. And then they absorb everything from you. You can still help them. They learn from the others. They learn from the leads, and they are more open to change and implement this changing in their workflow. As I said, seniors are, of course, I would never say, okay, we just hire juniors. We need seniors. Seniors are super important. There are way more skills and qualities that makes a senior super, super important. It's just that sometimes with some of them, it's difficult.
I would say a senior, my definition of a senior is somebody who you 99% of the time, you can give them an assignment, you give them an asset task, whatever it is, and with minimal supervision, minimal need of direction, and sort of like these are the steps you need to take and so on, they will solve that problem, they'll figure it out, and they'll get you your asset in time on time and good quality level. If you can't do that, are you a senior then? I mean, that's my definition of a senior. I don't know if you agree with that.
No, I totally agree. I mean, a senior is a person that you can rely on. So that means that, of course, I'm giving you this, and I trust you that you can deliver this asset without me being always present and support you. And this is the biggest quality of being a senior. I mean, I really don't care if a person is a senior on paper or not. Sometimes I have mid-level artists that can do this better than seniors. So, titles are very relative. So that really depends. I don't really care about people that come to me and say, oh, when I'm going to be a mid artist or a senior artist, like, look, it's not something that you have an expiry date for that position and then you move to the next one. It's a process, and maybe you are already on that level. Then it's a matter of discussing salary, but not with me, but with HR. So it's title. It's really subjective in a way.
So I've been working for a million different studios. It wasn't my choice. It just happened that way, that I got short gigs, and then when one short gig is finished, you need to find another one. And other people I see are so lucky to, what should we say, not by their choice or whatever. There is a random element here, as in luck, basically. You're at the right time at the right place. Mm-hmm. They start in one company and they got renewed, or they got a longer contract because there was a longer project or whatever it may be. The studio had more work after this particular show, and then they stay with a studio for a really, really long time. And on one hand, I fantasize about such a life, just being with one studio where you know the pipeline, you know the team, you know everything. You're not every 6 months or every year or 2 years. You're now having to get to know a new pipeline, a new team, and so on. And it takes quite a while before you're sort of up on your level of efficiency. But on the other hand, it also means that I have seen 1 million different pipelines. And you were pointing out to me before when we were talking that maybe that's not always a good thing, because you might have all these ideas about, oh, why aren't we doing it this way here? I'm used to doing it this other way instead of how we're doing it in the pipeline where you currently are at.
Well, no, I mean, I really didn't say it's a matter of people that are used to other pipelines and then come to work with us and then they have a different approach. That's not about it. Actually, I'm super happy when we have seniors that bring their experience from other companies that can share this experience. It's like maybe there is a way to do things that it's different. I'm very open to integrate these things because, well, we can learn from the experience of other people as well. So that's really, really nice. The problem that sometimes there might be is that maybe when a senior is very close in his head or her head, and it's not about pipeline, it's not about workflow, it's about maybe in the previous experiences, it was not really working in a department where it was, it was supposed to be organized, or it was supposed to, keep your files in the right place, in the right order, like really stupid things that if you are a person that has a lot of experience, maybe you have that way, and this is not about pipeline or workflow. This is really about a way of working and still a little bit adapting to what is requested in other companies. So, that could be, it could be also that, okay, you're a senior, you do your gig and you leave, but maybe I might require you to keep your node graph clean, or to keep your layers clean in a way that then you can share this what you did with other artists, and that could be sometimes also difficult, because if you're used to work in a way that you never shared, you're not used to share this with other artists, then it gets difficult to adapt to change your workflow in this way.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thick-headed as I am, I finally get it. I think Claudia's reservations come from seniors that has gotten stuck in a certain style of working, which probably is not an optimal, or clean, or efficient way of working. Seniors, perhaps, if you count the years worked, but not really deserving of seniors as the flattering title implying higher levels of skill. Personally, I think there is no excuse for this at any stage of your career. My first texture lead, Andrea Giordano, who is now the asset lead at Redefine in Barcelona, didn't mince her words, and for that, I am eternally grateful. I remember on the first asset I worked on, she asked me if I was not embarrassed to put out such work. The look of guy who receives these textures, what will he think of you? Ouch. Can you imagine being told that to your face as a junior artist? But older Mark, for me, this is a moment I celebrate. I wish I could go back in time and tell her, thank you. She did me a favor. A smart-ass kid like me, who always got top grades in school without ever doing any homework, too smart for his own good. Imagine if all of this texturing would have come to me too easily. I wouldn't have respected it, and so my work and career would have suffered. And to get through to a thick-headed idiot like me, she had to use strong words. In today's much more, sensitive workspace, I fear a lot of junior artists never get that opportunity to receive those forceful learning experiences that just pay dividends throughout the rest of their careers. Can you get that in other ways? I'm not so sure. I would love to get wicked strong and ripped in the gym, the easy way, preferably, but I don't think there exists any other way than blood, sweat, and tears. This is how steel is made after all, with careful use of fire and intense pressure through hammer blows. Soft and brittle iron is formed into something so much better. And if you're a senior artist who hasn't had the good fortune to work under a lead who cared enough to straighten out your mistakes, then you really owe it to yourself to swing that hammer on your own mistakes. I wonder what kind of seniors you've come across, because these things you were saying about, like follow the correct file structure, keep your node graph clean and organized and well, named so that people can step in very quickly and see what you're doing. Let's say somebody else needs to take over your asset. It's just, I call that good housekeeping. You keep your house nice and clean and tidy. Whether you're a junior or senior, lead, or I don't care who you are. That's like lesson number one you need to learn.
Of course.
And but maybe I suppose if you've had more of the background that you are always working as a lone wolf, you're just doing the whole asset or something like that, then you don't have the need to learn these kind of disciplines. But being a part of a team, that's, oh my goodness. I think fondly of my first texture lead. She was a fearsome woman, and she had very strong words with me, and I learned the error of my ways very early. And then you're fine for the rest of your life, you know. So in my case, because I'm a little thick-headed, you need somebody to shout at you, and preferably that needs to happen very early in your life, so that you can just take these good habits with you wherever you go from that point on.
I mean, maybe it's not even the person's fault. It's just that the previous experiences were always like as a standalone. Like you don't really integrate in the team, and then the moment that you end up in a company that really push for team integration and cooperation, that's where maybe some of the people are missing the tools to really make this function. It can happen with anyone. As I was saying, with Junior, maybe it's even the first time that they enter in a company. So again, it's a bit more, they're a bit more flexible, because they still need to build up their baggage of knowledge and experience. But with maybe one person that has been used to work alone for many time without, as you just said, like you had a lead that she put some good things in your head and you kept it for your whole life. And maybe some of this person didn't have this luck, and that's where when they end up in a department with a structure where there is a lead or a head that needs certain things to be done in a certain way, that's where there might be an issue, you know.
All of this talk here is very interesting, but I can't help thinking there's one big question that comes into my mind. So I love texture work. What I love about texture work is just making cool things. What we do when you make an asset and you're sitting there looking at it like, wow, I made this. You know, it's such a magical feeling. But all of these things that we're talking about now comes with a territory of being a lead, or above that, a supervisor, as you are. Is it worth it? Doesn't that just eat so much of the joy? It takes so much of your time and energy having to deal with these kind of things that all takes you away from that magical moment of just making cool things. Is it worth it?
Oh, well, that's a good question. I mean, of course, it's worth it for me, because otherwise I wouldn't be in this position. But I think it really depends on what type of person you are. The job is not for everyone. And again, I'm not saying that only the cool people do this job. That's not at all about this. It's about, okay, what kind of personality you have. Are you a person that like to interact with other people and also be in the position of leading them, or you just a person that you love to sit in front of the computer and just do your job and, don't think about anything else? I actually like both things. So, of course, the moment that I started to grow more into leading positions, I lost a little bit the part where you can just sit in front of the computer, wait for your dailies, and in the meanwhile, just texture, be in your head, put your headphone, hear some music, and go on. I lost that part a little bit, but on the other end, I gained all the part where you really feel that you're building something with your team. So it's like you are in the company and you have a weight in the company, and you can really nourish the people that are working with you in your team, build a good spirit. So for me, that part, it's really satisfying. It's really rewarding when I have people that they are happy to be in the team, that they are happy to work. They talk to each other. There is a good communication between the department. This is really, really satisfying. So that's the part of the job that I really like. And on the other end, I love to be an artist, a texture artist. And I mean, I manage somehow to still do texturing, The good thing is that being unhead, it means that I can still somehow decide what task I could take as like really practically doing. So I never left the artistic part completely. I would never do that. If someone would come to me and would say, okay, now you're just in the managing part of the job, I would never do it. I cannot lose the part where I open the software, I take my graphic tablet and I start painting. I still do that. But on the other end, I also have this other part that gives me other happy things.
Do you have sort of like, maybe it's difficult to say, but just a ballpark split? How many percent texture work do you do, as if you were just another artist doing asset work, and then how many percent of your day is with administrative things?
I mean, that really depends from the project. So, for example, actually, if the project it doesn't have too much to do in a way that I have many artists and not many tasks, of course I need to give priority to the artist, then I need to give them the task. So I cannot take the task away from the artist because I still am busy with meetings and other things while the artists, they need to be busy with doing tasks. So it could be that in the smaller project there is less texturing for me that I can do. But on the other hand, it could also be that I might have a bit more time to do that. So, it really depends. I can give you an example. When we worked on the House of the Dragon last year, and we did the dragons, and there was no question for me that I really wanted to do one of these dragons.
You can't pass that up.
No,
How many
I
times
can't.
in your life do you get to do a dragon?
I mean,
like that?
that was when I entered Visual Effects. Doing one dragon for Game of Thrones was really like my dream. And now that I got the chance, I said, no way, I'm going to kill myself with work. I don't care, but I'm going to do it. And in that case, there was tons of stuff to do as head of the department. And then maybe I was able to work in our 8-hour day. I was able to work 2-3 hours on the dragon between meetings and everything, but then I kept working in the evening because I just wanted to, to do it. That's what I was enjoying. But that project was very big, and I was not only on the dragon. So I was also on the environment part and the props part to organize and to have the team working on all of this. So it was a lot of things to do. But I wouldn't never have passed this chance to work on the dragon. And
I love this section. Yes, Claudia has dreams. Don't we all? But making them happen requires graft and hustle. That is true for any of us, no matter how talented we may be or what kind of job situation we find ourselves in, even if you're the supervisor of the team. Dreams, hard work, and determination. If you have those three, the world will eventually bend to your will. Claudia is a great example of this.
I did it, and it was super nice.
Yeah, it looks gorgeous. I was just looking at your reel yesterday, and it has front and center, and it looks fantastic.
Thanks.
And I think all of us, we're geeks on some level, and mythological beasts such as dragons and that. It just it's got a big place in our hearts. Oh boy, I was once in a studio, my first studio I started working in, we were going to start doing pirate ships, which is also, I don't know why, just like really, really cool thing. But it wasn't, things weren't going very well for the studio, so staff was scaled down, and I was just a humble runner that was doing texture work on the side there. But so I never got to do any pirate ships. And then I was working on Pirates of the Caribbean years later, and we also had a pirate ship, but I didn't get to do it. It's kind of like being, so I understand you're that close to a dragon, you kind of have to just reach out and grab it when it's there, if it is at all possible. I was thinking back a little bit further, you and how you started out and all of these things. Do you remember as a child growing up? What was your first sort of memory of being an artist? Do you have anything where sort of like there was a moment where you self-identified, where you sort of like said about yourself, "I'm an artist. This is who I am. This is what I do."
Okay, so a little disclaimer before answering to the
Sure.
specific
Yeah. Yeah.
question. I don't like to define myself as an artist.
Okay.
Not because I don't feel like I'm doing artistic thing. I am. I just think that the artist word it's widely used too much these days, and
I agree with you completely, because in my native language, Danish, we have multiple different words for art and for being an artist. And when there's only one word for it in English, and in English that would be the same word that we use for somebody like a Rembrandt or a Michelangelo or something like that. And it feels so funny saying this about myself, because I am not like that. I am not in that category. And the work that I do has nothing to do with what these people were doing. So it also, but in English, it flows. Oh, it flows more easily. It is a very broad term that can both hold Michelangelo or someone like us that are just making these things for a living. That what other people are telling us, we want you to make this and that, and you're like, okay, fine, I'll make that. With little actual artistic decisions in it.
I mean, that's really interesting that in Danish you have different words for defining an artist. I never thought this could be the issue with me, because, for example, in Italian, artist is a Michelangelo, Raffaello, Leonardo, and if you go in Italy and say I'm an artist, they said, "Oh, come on, you are, It's like, who do you think you are? You're not."
Yeah, it's a very big title to put on yourself.
Yes, and especially in Italy, that it's a lot of art came from Italy, and we still have this very traditional way of looking at art. I mean, most people in Italy don't understand art like modern art or like digital art as an art. So that's
Well,
why.
I can understand that, because you have such an insane history with it. Mm-hmm. And that's got to weigh so much heavier than anything that is done in modern times. I think the UN estimated that Italy is behind around a quarter of the world's, 25% of the world's entire art output through history.
Yeah.
Everything from, whatever, gastronomy to paintings to music to whatever, all of it, So it's a crazy volume of art that has come out of a relatively small space and time,
Yeah.
Italy. So I can understand how that would completely just skew everything and twist how you see things in modern times. But
Yeah.
I'm thinking more like, did you grow up drawing, for example?
Yes.
Was that a thing you enjoyed doing?
Yes, definitely. I mean, that's to answer your question in a way that, I mean, it doesn't matter if I felt when I started to become an artist, but I always liked drawing, and I was drawing for myself. It's like, I don't think I've always been an excellent drawer. I just love to do it, and I started, I think, really in the elementary school. I remember I was drawing like comics for my friends or something, very horrible ones, but it was like,
I think we all did that. We all had that friend that say, "Hey, draw me Spider-Man," or "Hey," or the girls would come and ask me, "Hey, could you draw me a pony," or something like that. Yeah.
yeah.
That was our first job, so to speak.
Yeah, so I had like plenty of notebooks full of drawings. I was drawing on books, like most of the time on my mathematic books. That was really drawing on there, and my mom was getting crazy because, yeah, she was really pissed when I was ruining the books with all the drawings that I was doing on the pages. I really started relatively early, and I got really fascinated when I saw what the computer could do. So that's when.
What was that? What moment was that? Was it a film? Was it some other experience with a computer where you're realizing, wow, computer graphic, it's powerful? What
I
what
mean,
moment was that?
the moment is that this started for me was that when my father basically brought home the first computer, and my father has always been a technology enthusiast, so he brought it very early, and I started playing around with that, even not knowing yet that there was like movies that were done with computers. It was really at the beginning, but the moment that I saw that I could put some colors on maybe something that I was drawing, and I could put it in the scanner, scan it, and then go into paint and put some colors
Wow.
on that. For me was really wow. That's super nice, because I can do a lot of stuff, and I could see the potential of it. So for me that was
Did,
really a very, very nice thing.
did you have any, like, I don't know, family members or friends of the family or somebody around you that sort of showed you from an early age that, oh, uncle so and so, he's an artist, so it can be a career as well. Like, so that, because as a child, unless we see it around us, we might not be able to make that mental leap of, like, I can make this into a living one day. Did you have that, or did that come
It
much later?
it took a while. I mean, my mom used to draw and used to paint a little bit. She was doing for her own. We had some pictures at home that she did, but it's not that she never made it a profession. She went into all the medical parts, so really something completely different. But I never had this, because also, again, getting back to how Italy sees artists, it's like, oh, what are you an artist, and what do you want to be? Do you want to go on St. Peter's Square and draw like portraits of tourists, or what? That was the idea, and that was how I grew up, with the idea that, okay, you're an artist. What do you do with it? I had no idea, really. I just knew that I loved that, and I've always been drawn to produce images and pictures and colors and stuff like that.
This is interesting because I'm thinking how there are so many great sort of creative disciplines coming out of Italy. Like, everybody associates Italy with, like, for example, high fashion, or I'm thinking of all the fantastic furniture that comes out of places like Milano and so on. And but somehow people don't make that connection, that they need creative people that can draw and produce an artistic vision for this,
Yeah.
or
You have no idea how many people, how many friends I have that they were really good in drawing, or like in the artistic discipline. Also, even better than me we were like teenagers, and they never made it. They never did anything with it, because they.
how come you made it and they didn't?
Well, I started. I think the thing that a little bit saved me is that I was so interested in what technology could bring, and computer, that then computer took a lot of visibility in the years, and then the moment that I understood, okay, I started with, okay, graphics. Graphics is something that started to be in the university, because when I decided that, okay, I want to do university, I want to do something with art, but okay, what do I do? Where do I find a course that is involving art, that it's not traditional arts, because otherwise what do? You go in St. Peter and sell portraits? No. And that's where I found graphic design course, and that was the closest thing that I said, okay, I can go in this direction and do graphics. But for me, graphics was a very broad topic, until
Of course.
in this course that I did at university, there was one subject where we had a professor that was talking about visual effects. And it was one of the assignments that we had, the final project that we had for this course, was to do an animated shot, like a matte painting, and then some integration with some real pictures, and then animate a camera. And for me, that was really like the moment that I said, okay, this is something that I like to do. And I really liked matte painting, for example. I didn't even know that texturing was an option. I was still in the 2D world, let's say. And for me, that was something that really said, okay, I need to start looking around. And I started to look abroad to try to find internships abroad and see what was there. And that's where I started actually to go more into that path.
Okay. So was that the moment when you sort of started seeing this could be a job for me?
Yes.
This could be a career. Okay. Very cool. I mean, of course, the world progresses, everything moves forward, and I'm very jealous of the kids that are in school today, where everything is pretty much mapped out for them, and they don't need to there aren't these big sort of parts of the world where there's no map for that, and they just have to sort of be explorers traveling through there and figure out their own way through. This certainly was the case when I started out, and it also sounds like for you. Yeah. Claudia Marvisi will be back in a future episode. Thanks for spending a little bit of your day with us. We have a tiny bit of housekeeping to do on the way out. If this episode has been helpful to you, why not share the podcast with your colleagues and friends? If you'd like to support the podcast, I'd appreciate if you bought me a coffee. You can do that on Ko-fi. That is spelled ko-fi.com/The Naked Texture Artist. One word. If you have suggestions, comments, or questions, I'd love to hear them. Feel free to drop me a line on thenakedtextureartist@gmail.com. That is The Naked Texture Artist written out in all one word @gmail.com. As I mentioned, having a busy day job in visual effects means my release schedule for this podcast can be a bit irregular. So if you don't want to miss out, subscribe to The Naked Texture Artist wherever you get your podcasts. Or follow the podcast on the socials, then you'll be alerted when the next episode drops. The music in this episode was Awake by Tycho. Nick Sifoni helped put the sound together, and everything else was done by me, your host, Mark Pierre Sondergaard. Speak to you soon.